our depth, but we're there on merit. Bring it on.
Absolutely. Well, do you know what? I wasn't actually going to entwine the segments on Ipswich and Southampton, but see, it seems to work quite nicely. So we'll bring in Martin Sanders, who's
Martin, go. Martin, just leave us alone. Just let us have second. You'll win the playoffs. It'll be fine.
I don't want to end up in the playoffs.
No, neither do we.
Absolutely don't want to end up in the playoffs. But no, I really admire what Kieran McKenna has done at Ipswich. I think he's done a brilliant job. Superb job. Nice little buffer as well. That we've gone on a really, really good run, haven't we? We've done really well to kind of close that gap, but we can't afford a wobble. And I keep looking at the fixtures coming up, and I break them down into sort of 2 fixtures at a time. I look at the next 2 is definitely winnable, but then the next 2 after that are both on the road in the same week. Bristol City on a Tuesday night at Ashton Gate, and then you got to go to West Bromwich Albion on the Friday, and I think that is a massively tough game. So yeah, I just keep breaking it down and just take it step by step, and we're due a wobble somewhere. How we keep it going, I don't know. It's really tough.
Yeah, and do you look ahead to that last day fixture feeling that could be pivotal, or I guess you're hoping it'll be done by then, will you?
I'm hoping it'll be done by then. You won't want to go to Ellen Road on the final day of the season needing something. They're so good at home, aren't they, Leeds? They just don't lose games at home, and I still think that they're the real dark horses. I think they're the one side that will put the big pressure on Ipswich and Southampton. I think we're all looking over their shoulder at them. They play before all of us, I think, as well, don't they? Do they play Friday night, Leeds? It does. Yeah,
they do. They've got Bristol City Friday night.
And there's no doubt that playing the game earlier does put pressure on the teams that are kicking off later. I thought that when we played Sheffield Wednesday at St Mary's and Ipswich were playing Sunderland later on that evening, we went second for a short while of time. It put a little bit of pressure on, but Ipswich went and got that result against Sunderland. It's a fair play. They'd done what they had to do, and that's what Ipswich keep doing. You're still good at home. I think. You stretch it. I think you'll be right there at the end. I think it'd be between the 3 of us for the second. I really do.
I hope so. I mean, then we got the point at Leicester as well Monday night. We had to watch all of you guys play the preceding few days, and all of us were kind of hoping we'd get something, but had no expectation in that second half there. The fact that it preceded what happened to us in the FA Cup on a Saturday just made last week so much more bizarre. But I think that's to what we were talking about, Gab, in terms of just keeping our noses in front. I think it's been massive psychological boost for what Martin was just talking about, and we keep doing it. All we need to do is match Southampton's points tallies, really, don't we? At this point,
yeah. And then we've got to play each other, haven't we? That's the big thing. We have
at Portman Road as well.
We've got big games away from home, and that's probably what concerns me the most is those away games and whether we've got the steel to go into those and get the results that we require. We're better at home than away. We've been a little bit shy of really finishing teams off away from home. Hopefully that David Brooks will give us that little extra edge that we might not have had. I don't know. It depends what impact he has when he comes in.
My question mark over Southampton, Martin. First of all, I think the unbeaten run you've been on, I don't quite know what the number is now, but it's certainly in the 20s. Absolutely, 20. Thank you. It's absolutely. Cheers. It's a phenomenal run, and deserve an awful lot of respect for that. And I think you've played really well. But I noticed in the Swansea game, although you dominated so much of that, I did feel like at 3-1 you actually rode your luck towards the end, where 1 or 2 times where you did get caught playing out, and that kind of invited Swansea on to a bit of pressure. And I do wonder, is there that danger that Southampton, against some of the better teams in those crucial away games that you've got coming up, could that be your undoing a little bit?
It could be, yeah. That I was down there at Swansea for the game. It was at the first half there was so much space. I think Swansea were just really poor on the day, and we were really at the races. I think when you're in form, and I think Rich would back me up on this, but when your team's got that mentality of winning, and it's just like a little snowball, and you just keep picking it up like you're picking up bits of snow, which is your points all the time, and everybody's in the same groove, aren't they? It's just a really nice feeling when you're flowing, and we were flowing and they weren't. The new managers come in, and we just caught them at the right time, but we let them back in. The substitutions that he made that day. Russell made the 3 that he brought on really struggled. Rothwell coming in for his first appearance wasn't up to speed, and they made substitutions around the same time, and they just started to build a bit of pressure on us. And it was just about us not really being focused and not being that switched on. And sometimes you really have to be, it's for 90 minutes. You can't do it for 60 minutes, 65 minutes, because against the better teams, like you say, they'll pick you off and they beat you. The likes of Leeds, Ipswich, Leicester, they will do that. And they will punish you. We would have got punished against a side that was a little bit more clinical, because they had the chances. They just didn't finish the chances.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough balancing act, because I also do love the style that Russ Martin's got this team playing as well, and I think there's huge advantages to that. So hopefully they can sort of just do it with, and avoid some of those errors. But it's a tricky one. Rich, I want to talk about Ipswich, and you know what? I'm kind of going to draw a line under the Maidstone game, because
please do.
Yeah, because it would be the easiest thing in the world, wouldn't it, to look at the defeat to, a step to a non-league opposition at home and say, that's a really worrying thing. But you know what? The number of chances that you created in that game, it's like, I feel like it's sometimes you've just got to say, A, well done to the opposition for putting their bodies on the line, and B, that's kind of football, and that sort of sometimes happens. But do you think the striker position is the only area that you need to strengthen, or do you think the return of key players, like you mentioned earlier, means that the squad's looking a bit fuller at the moment?
Yeah, just very briefly on what you were saying there, Gab, in terms of drawing a line. I mean, the one thing we can take out of last Saturday is the fact that anything is possible in football. And as I said, we are punching well above our weight in this promotion race. And if Maidstone have proven everything, if you hang in there and you take your moments when they come, then success is possible in the unlikeliest of circumstances. And there's a little bit of a kick up the backside for us in an attacking sense to convert these chances. And to your point, the priority absolutely has to be a striker. There's a lot of confusion about the situation around Brandon Williams, who's been on loan from Man United. He can play fullback, and it was probably one of our picks in the autumn. Preston, I think it was, went from one end of the pitch to the other and scored a goal off the post. And
assist at Sheffield Wednesday as well for the winner as well in September.
Yeah, and I think he was involved in the Huddersfield equaliser as well, but has really tailed off and a lot of stuff that we don't really know what's going on there. So if he's going back to United and being recalled, then we've been linked with Marvin Johnson and left back cover. I think we've probably got enough at right back with Axel Twins-Aby and maybe Janai Danasi. And again, probably not as strong as Harry Clark or Williams on his day. But full back, maybe Gab is the only area probably where there's a question mark. And I suspect that will be resolved one way or the other before tomorrow. But it's just getting the striker over the line. And as I said, it feels like it's a break glass in case of emergency loan move for Kiefer Moore if we can get a deal done with Bournemouth. But they seem to be sending all their best players to Martin's team. So I suspect they won't. He doesn't need him, but so we'll have him.
Well, I suppose we might. That brings us to the signing of David Brooks on loan from Bournemouth. Martin, I suppose you touched on it earlier. Are you hoping he can bring someone who Ollie's familiar with as well, scoring the winner at Hillsborough in 17-18? Is he someone who can bring a sprinkling of stardust to this Saints side?
Yeah, I'm really excited by him as a signing. Obviously, I worked with Asmir Begovic, and I had a chat with him about him because obviously he was down at Bournemouth and he knows David Brooks really well. He said he's an outstanding player. He said to me in a text message, he said he'd get you promoted. He rates him that highly. I think he's a really good signing. We're a little bit short on that right side, to be honest, and that's where he'll play. Obviously, Alcaraz will leave the football club probably today. It's pretty much done with Juventus. He's going out the door.
And he's going to Juventus.
He's going to Juventus, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a loan as well, actually. It's a loan with an option to buy, not an obligation to buy. Yeah. But they're talking...
He'll come back, won't he, I think he said, Martin.
It's like a Leeds transfer, that.
In the Premier League.
Yeah, he come back here in the Premier League. It's funny. He can't even get into Russell Martin's Championship side, let alone a Premier League side. So
he's going to the multiple-time Champions League finalist. The team that's been runners-up in the Champions League, more often than anyone else. He can't get into the Championship, but interesting.
Yeah, he's not suited Russell at all. He's not suited our style. We brought in Joe Rothwell again from Bournemouth on loan. He's got a bit of work to get himself up to speed, I've got to be honest. But I think Brooks, from the performance he put in against Swansea in the FA Cup on Friday night, he assisted in 2 and scored. He looked outstanding. He's pacey. He's obviously come back from a really, really tough time. So the Bournemouth fans I talked to, he's been playing for a year now, and they say he looks good again, not quite back to where he was, but he's going to need a bit of game time, and I think Russell will give him that. I think he's a really welcome addition to our squad.
Absolutely. It's interesting that Charlie Alcaraz was at one point favoured as a central forward in this team over Shay Adams, but more recently, Adams has been starting, and I thought he was excellent at Swansea. And it feels to me like he's just grasped the requirements in terms of dropping in and linking play as a central forward in a Russ Martin team in a way that maybe he hadn't previously.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Gab. I thought he was outstanding at Swansea in the first half. It's probably the best performance I've seen him in a Southampton shirt since he signed for the football club. I thought he was brilliant down there. His movement off the ball was really, really good. His hold-up play is good. He's really bulked out. He's got really strong. He's a hell of a foil for anybody because he just holds people off. And in this league, between now and the end of the season, as long as they don't let him go in the next sort of 24 hours or so, which we need to keep an eye on because you never know what might happen in this final day. But they really do need to keep Shay Adams because he has really, he's just turned a bit of a corner. He knows what Russell expects of him, and he looks like a player that wants to be here where he maybe didn't a few months ago. But you were kind of questioning, does he really want to be here? A lot of people called it the transfer window for him. He always seems to perform quite well around transfer windows. But he's going to be playing for a club next season. His contract runs out in the summer. I think whatever happens, we just got to get the maximum out of him as we possibly can, and hopefully he can help spearhead that automatic promotion pushes, which is what they want to do, and he'd be a key man.
Certainly will. Rich, just before I let you go, reckon Ipswich are getting top two?
If you were to hold a gun to my head, Gav, I would probably say no. If I'm honest, I would love it. To quote Kevin Keegan, but I just think there is I think there is just too much form behind us in Southampton. To be honest, I think Leeds are. I think all four of us are going to keep pace with one another. I just think that psychologically, I remember there's so many seasons in the past where I thought, Burnley under Dyche, they'll fall away, and they never did. And Southampton kind of have that sense about me. I think of all of the four, actually, Southampton are just the most consistent. And after that early kind of stutter, and we played them at a perfect time when Russ Martin's philosophy hadn't really embedded properly. I just can't see. They need to go on a real serious blip for me to believe that they're going to fall away properly. I just can't see it. I'd love us to keep pace. If we got a marquee signing in tomorrow, Gab, I might change my mind. But right now, I probably admit that Southampton probably the strongest of us two teams, and then you got Leeds behind us, just a little bit behind.
Well, Leeds have got to go to Middlesbrough and get something, haven't they?
And I would love it, Gab.
Absolutely. Rich, thanks so much for joining us, and keep up the great work on the Blue Monday podcast.
Always good to chat, guys. And Martin, I'll see you on April Fool's Day. We'll see where we are then, eh?
I will see you there, mate. I'm looking forward to it very much indeed.
Take care, guys.
Lovely stuff. Martin, I want to talk to you about Stuart Armstrong because he's been in absolutely sensational form the last couple of months.
Yeah, he's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed watching him. Again, another player that's really starting to flourish in Russell Martin's style. But I heard Martin Simmons, who was the CEO at the football club last year, he was speaking on a radio station last week, and he spoke about Stuart Armstrong. He said he's not seen him enjoying his football like he's enjoying it right now. He's playing with a smile on his face. He's got a spring in his step, and everything good about Southampton when we were down at Swansea, Stuart Armstrong was involved in. Comes on in the cup against Watford, beautiful goal he scored. He changed the game when he go on, but his contract actually runs out in the summer. I hope that they can do something to keep him because he's a Premier League player, in my opinion. He just needed a run of games, a manager that believes in him, and that's the one thing that Martin really has done. He's wheeled out people that don't work for him, that don't show the effort and endeavour that he requires from a player. And he's nailed it down, and he's got the players in his starting 11. He's really got his best 11 now. And Stuart's one of the first names on the team sheet. I think he's been outstanding. He'd be a real key player. Keeping him fit is really important because he has suffered with injuries over the last few years. But keep him fit, and he'd be golden between now and May.
Certainly will. Are we looking at Adams, Armstrong, and Flynn Downes as being the real key men for Southampton going into February and beyond?
I think the spine of the team's real key. I think Bazunu in goal's really important. he plays. He's involved so much as a goalkeeper. And at times Russell's he doesn't like it. You can get late in games and they can keep peppering the ball back to him and put him under loads of pressure. And we have let in sloppy goals. One of them against Plymouth was sloppy. It was just the ball was peppered back to him way too much. But he's really good distribution. He's key. Harwood Bellis at centre half has been outstanding. I can't speak highly enough of how good Harwood Bellis has been. His distribution's a different class. And Russell, though he's been really stubborn in the way he wants us to play, because he admits it himself, he's stubborn in the way he wants to go about things, and I massively admire him. The one thing he has tweaked is he does let him go a little bit more direct. So he's the one player that will pick passes. You'll see some of his distributions brilliant. Downs is key central midfield, big player for us. And then I think Adams up front again, that spine of the team, so it's so important. And what you work around that, you've got really good players. Ryan Fraser's making a huge impact coming off the bench. He started a few games. He's been really, really good. A great signing. He's playing for a contract. There's a real hungry squad here, and that's down to the manager. Like, I had a few question marks over him at one stage, but I can't speak highly enough of what he's done in terms of the team, but also the football club as a broken football club, Gab, down here. It was a mess a year ago. The fan base was split. Everybody was bickering, and he's come in. He's sorted out the playing side, but he's also got the fans on board. He interacts with everybody, and he's got time for everybody. And I think that goes a long way at any football club. Really, really impressed with him. Really impressed.
Absolutely. Well, Ollie, are we talking about Southampton as the team with the most momentum, for want of a bit of a buzzword there, among the four teams we've discussed this evening?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're the team that's carrying all the momentum. I think I haven't actually checked, but I would imagine if I checked the odds, Southampton would probably be the favourites that people have got right now for taking that second spot. I think as you look at the league table, as you talk about the Championship, it really does feel like Southampton are the team that are going to just kick on. They're the team that are going to put together the most consistent run of form between now and May, and they're going to take that spot. For me, the question marks come when you've got to go away to four of the other four in the top five. West Brom, Ipswich, Leicester, last day of the season at Leeds. They're all real banana skins. And that is a huge question mark to put over it. I think Ipswich and Leicester as well are only a couple of games apart. I think you play the two of them within sort of a 3-week run. And that could be really decisive. I came into this podcast saying that I think it will be Southampton. I still do. I think they're probably the best of those three teams. I think they've got the most quality and the most consistency to take it forwards. But yeah, those are the question marks. It's the away form, particularly for those four huge games that are coming up between now and the end of the season.
Well, seeing as you mentioned the odds, Ollie, I've gone on to BetVictor. Leicester 1-20 for a top two finish, so that shows how